Hello guys, so continuing with the last recording that we had, I had discussed the first 20 questions. So now, as you can see, there are like 170 odd questions. So we are looking at the next set of questions now. So let's begin. This one is saying that according to the data provided by the US Department of Energy, etc., the average price per gallon from September to December is given by the function here. So if you see, September to December is basically 3 month period, right? September 1 to October 1, October to November 1, November to December 1, right? It's a 3 month period. So obviously, X months after September means X can be basically 0 to 3. Okay. 0 months after September would mean like on September. 3 months after September would mean like December. So if that be the case, they are asking the constant 2.74 here means what? So as you can see, it's 2.74 minus something. And in that something, if I put X as 3, then this becomes 0. So that means 2.74 is the average price when X is 3. That means 3 months after September means on December 1. So basically 2.74 is the price per gallon on December. So that is the fourth option. All right. Next, let's move on to the next one. In the system of equations below, A and C are constants. So you have an equation here. First of all, let's get rid of these fractions. Straight away, when you see any fraction-based equations, let's get rid of it. Multiply throughout by 6. That will do the trick. So half of x times 6 would be 3x plus 2y equals 1. And this one is ax plus 1y equals c. It says that there are infinitely many solutions, right? So that means the ratios will all be the same. So we have 3 over a equals 2 over 1 equals 1 over c. Okay. So they're saying what is the value of a. So from here we can get it. So 3 over a equals 2. So in other words, 3 over 2 equals a. So a is 1.5 or 3 over 2. So that is the fourth option. Okay. Please remember these things, like what happens when you have infinitely many solutions, what happens when you have no solutions, and so on. Let's go on to the next one. It's saying a certain product costs a company $65. The product is sold by a salesperson who earns a commission 20% of the sales price. Okay. So commission is 0.2 times the sales price. The profit and this is commission, not cost. So let's put it as CM. And the cost is $65. The profit that the company makes for each unit is equal to the sales minus the combined cost of making the product and the commission. Okay. So the profit would be sales minus cost plus commission. So if I just plug in, then it is 65 plus 0.2 S. So S minus 0.2 S is 0.8 S minus 65. Okay, so that's your profit. Now it's saying that the sales is 100. Which of the following equations gives the number of units of the product that the company sold to make a profit of 6840? Okay, so if I just were to compute this, plugging in S to be 100, we have profit to be 0.8 times 100. So that's 80 minus 65. So that would be 15. And now since you need 6840 to be the profit, so the number of items should have been 6840 upon 15, and you can calculate. So now if you have already calculated it, then you can just calculate each of these and then check which one matches. But then that would be like a long run process, right? So can we, instead of doing the calculation, because they actually haven't asked us to calculate the value, right? So if you can just keep the values as it is and then just write down the number of units. So number of units they have defined as U, okay, not N. So how could we do that? So we say that the profit would be, in our case, we'll not plug in values. We'll just keep it and we'll not calculate. So 100 times, so S minus 0.2 S, right? S minus 0.2 S. So it would be 100 minus 0.2 times 100 minus 65. So we can simplify it as 100 common 1 minus 0.2 minus 65. That's your profit per item. And since you need to make a profit of 6840, so number of units would be 6, or we can say number of units times the profit should be 6840. So our equation now becomes 100 times 1 minus 0.2 minus 65. This entire thing times the number of units is 6840. So let's check the options. 100 times 1 minus 0.2 minus 65, whole thing times u is 6840. So that is the first option. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. So they're saying that this two equations, xy is the solution. What is the value of 3x plus 3y? So often in these cases, what people do is you start solving, right? You don't really realize what is they're asking, and you just keep on solving the values of x and y, okay? And then plug in and can calculate and all that. But if you were a little observant and you just were to subtract these two, so 7x minus 4x and minus 5y. So let me write that down. 7x minus 4x, we are subtracting the equations. Minus 5y minus of minus 8y is 4 minus 9. Okay, I'm just doing this. See what we get. 3x minus 5y plus 8y is plus 3y equals negative 5. So we have the answer straight away. Let's go on to the next one. So you're saying ax plus by is b. Then here we are constants and so on. Which of these could be the graph of the equation? So if you like kind of reorganize this, and we have by equals negative ax plus b. So y would be negative a over b times x plus 1. So that means the y-intercept is going to be 1. So the y-intercept is 1 here. Okay, it is 1 here, possible. Here it is something negative altogether, this out. Here also it is 1, possible. So A and C are possible. Here also it is 1, so D is also possible. So we have either of A, C, or D, but B is not possible. Okay. Next is we look at the slope. A and B are both positive. We have a negative sign in front. So that means the slope is clearly negative. See, all of these A, C, and D have negative slope. So that cannot be used to eliminate. But if I look at this value, this order, A is less than B. Both are positive, right? So for example, A could be, let's say, if you take fractions, you take whole numbers, it's not important. But what the idea is that A is less than B. So if A were 2 and B were 3, for example, then A by B would be 2 over 3. So it's negative 2 over 3. Okay, the slope is negative 2 over 3. So the slope is not negative 1. See, clearly here in this option, the x and y intercepts are same. So that means you're looking at a 45, 45, 90 kind of a triangle, right? So slope here is minus 1. So that's now ruled out. A is not possible. Now, if you look at C and you look at D, these are the two cases, therefore, where the slope is negative 2 by 3. If you look at this, an exact 45-degree line would make a slope minus 1 like this. Anything steeper than that would have a slope less than minus 1, like minus 2, minus 3, and so on. Anything flatter than that would have a slope between 0 and minus 1. So like minus 2 by 3 and so on. Clearly, D is not that. The flatter line is C. So C is the answer here. Okay. Or you can in fact calculate also. This is number of divisions. If you look at it, kind of represents the same positions. Let's move on to the next one. So we just basically use that it has to be a flat line, not a steep line. So we eliminated D. The answer therefore is C. Next, it says the points plotted in the coordinate plane above represents possible numbers of wallflowers or cornflowers that you can buy and spend $24. The price of each wallflower is the same and each cornflower is the same. What is the price of one cornflower? Okay. So now if you look at this equation, this graph, and you think of this straight line joining it, all the points on the straight line are those which have a cost of $24. That's what it says. The points plotted represent the possible numbers that you can buy for $24. So now if that be the case, and you are buying those many for $24, and you want to find the price of a cornflower, that means you don't buy any wallflowers. So you're basically looking at the x-intercept because the x-axis has cornflowers. So that means you can buy 16 cornflowers. Okay. 16 cornflowers for $24. That means one cornflower would cost you 24 over 16. So that is $1.5. So the answer is 1.50. I hope this is clear. If I had asked you for wallflowers, you would have assumed that there are no cornflowers bought and you buy all 12 wallflowers. So 12 wallflowers would be $24. Then the answer would have been 2 for each wallflower. Okay. So each one flower is 1.50 and each each cornflower is 1.50 and each wallflower would be in the same way 24 divided by 12. So that is $2 if that was the question. Okay. Let's move on to the next. This one says a small business owner budgets 2,200 to purchase candles. So you must purchase a minimum of 200 candles. Okay. Now you buy small candles at this rate and 11.60 for large candles. That's the rate for the large ones. So what is the maximum number of large candles? So to buy the maximum number of large candles, what you would prefer doing is not buy any small candles. Keep the entire funds for buying the large ones. So if you do that, 2,200, you divide it by 11.60 and let us calculate how much we get. You can use a calculator. So I'm using one. So 2,200 divided by 11.6 gives us 189.6, means 189. You're falling short, right? So you're falling short of the number of candles that you need. You need to make up 11 more. But then you don't have funds because you only have 2,200 bucks. So what do? You have to reduce a large candle and increase a small candle. So now, if you want to do that, so if you reduce one large candle, so minus one large would release you 11.60 additional funds, right? So using these, you can buy a number of small candles. So if your small candles are costing 4.90, so how many small can you buy? So you are going to divide 11.6 divided by 4.9. So if you do that calculation now, so that's 11.6 divided by 4.9, that would be around 2.3. So that means for every one less small, large candle, you can buy plus 2.3 small. Means you are getting a net increase of plus 1.3. Right? Understand that I am not changing the funds because I have kept it at 2,200. I am saying that when you reduce one large, instead of like 189, if you buy 188, for example, okay? So when you release that 11.60 funds, using that, how many can you buy? Okay. I understand that 2.3 small you cannot buy, but then let's for the sake of calculation, we keep it as 2.3. We'll adjust the decimals later on, okay, at the final answer, final step. So that means you reduce one, you get 2.3 more. So you have increased 1.3. Now you have to keep doing it till you get 11 times. So that means how many times do you need to do this? Every time you do, you add 1.3. So 11 divided by 1.3, let's do that. And that comes to around 8.4 times, 8 times. Okay. So that means if I were to do this thing 8 times, that means I'm going to reduce the number of large candles by 8. So that means now, if I want to compute now, so number of large was 189, I've reduced 8, so now it is 181. I still need to verify, right? Because these are a lot of approximations involved, decimals and all, we'll have to adjust that. If large were 181, then small would be the remaining 200 minus 181, so that is 19. Let's calculate the cost. So 181 times 11.6 and 19 times 4.9. So if you were to calculate this and add, so that would be 181 times 11.6 is 2099 and 19 times 4.9 is 93.1. If you were to add these, you are going to get 2192.7. That means you still have some $8 left, right? And with $8, you can't buy a big one. But what you can do is reduce a small one. So reduce a small one. So why don't you just make this 18 and check that you now have minus 4.9 from 2192. So minus 4.9, that means you have just spent 2187.8, but you had 2200 left, right? So how much balance do you have? You have the difference, 2200 minus this is 12.20, okay? Use calculators freely. 12.20 is enough to buy you one more of the large one, right? Because that's costing you only 11.6. So that means instead of 181, I can do 182. But then after doing that 11.6, you are going to be left with only 60 more cents. So that's not enough to do an adjustment with small and large, right? You can't reduce another small and get another large anymore. So that means the last number that we have is large, you have 182, small, you have 18, and you have used up total of basically 60 cents less than 2200. So 2199.40 of funds that you have used up. And you have bought your entire 200 candles. So instead of solving with equations, I feel that this is a much better way of approaching because it's more logical. If you want to do it with equations, then your equations are going to be small plus large greater than or equal to 200, 4.9s plus 11.6l is less than or equal to 2200. Your target is to maximize L. And this is not a very easy way of easy question to solve, okay? Because you have to do a lot of algebraic manipulation to get to the answer. Can be done, but it's like going to be much, much longer. So this is one of those tough questions you often get on the SAT, right? Suddenly you come across like extremely high difficulty level. This is one of those, okay? So in a single test, in the second section, if you have like encountered the more difficult section, then maybe worst case you can get one or at the best two of these, not more. Okay. All right. So make sure that you redo this question yourself. If you get stuck, rewatch this part of the video and make sure that you understand how we are approaching this. All right. Let's move on to the next one. So here it says this psychologist set up an experiment to study the tendency of a person to select the first item, etc. 300 people were presented with a set of 5 pictures. Each person was asked to choose the most appealing. So of the first 150, so out of 150, 36 of them chose the first picture. Among the remaining 150, P of them chose the first picture. So how many chose the first picture? 36 plus P out of 300. Now it's saying that out of overall, 20% of all participants chose the first picture. So that means this times 100 as a percentage is greater than 20. So if you want to compute this, what we will basically get is, in other words, 36 plus P is the number of people who have chosen the first picture is greater than 20% of 300. is another way of writing the same thing. 20 over 100 times 300, right? So 20% of 300. So in other words, 36 plus P is greater than 0.2 times 300. So if I look at these options, and now you have to solve for P. So P would be greater than 0.2 times 300 minus 36. So zero point 0.2 times 300 minus 36, and that's option D here. P plus 36 is greater than 0.2 times 300. Okay, let's go on to the next. Again, so we have got those no solution type of question again. So the target is to simplify this quickly. So we have get all the x's and y's on one side. So 48x minus 102y is 24. Multiply this with 6 so that you get rid of all those fractions here. So the first step would be to get 6ry equals 1 minus 96x. Now get all of them together. So 96x plus 6ry equals 1. No solution means this ratio and this ratio should be equal, but not here. So just equate, you should get the answer. This equals negative. So this becomes 2, 6r, sorry. 2 cancels with 6 with 3r. So we get r to be negative 34. So minus 34. Let's go on to the next. It says this linear function. When x is 1, y is negative 64, it's 2 at 0, and 3 is positive 64. 3 values are given. Ax plus b, what is, so you have to figure out what are a and b. Apparently, that's what you have to figure out. What is the value of a, what is the value of b from this by plugging in values. But if you realize something that you can do, right? It's like plug into sets of equations. A is the slope. You can calculate the slope from here. 64 minus 64 minus 0 by 1 minus 2 it gave you the slope, and then plug in and it get the y-intercept and all that stuff. But then you don't need to do that, because if you look carefully, you need to find a minus b. And here if I put sorry, it's a minus b. Yeah, so I have to put f of minus 1. No, that shortcut doesn't work. So here if they had asked, just telling you a shortcut here, if they had asked a plus b, you could have just done that. Okay, so f of 1 is your a times 1 plus b, isn't it? And in fact, this is a very nice little trick here, that for any function fx, something like in a quadratic or a linear or a polynomial, whatever, if you want the sum of the coefficients, okay, sum of the coefficients, you just substitute x as 1. That means you figure out what is f1. Because see, f1 will just be a plus b. So if this was a plus b, f1 is already given. You could have just marked negative 64. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So here we'll have to figure out the answer. So let me just get rid of this part. And let's compute. So what's the slope here? The slope would be 0 minus minus 64 over 2 minus 1. So that's 64. So your fx is 64x plus something. So now when x is 1, so then this is 64 plus something equals negative 64. So let's put it like b. So f of 1 is minus 64 is 64 plus b. So that gets you b as negative 128. So we have your fx is 64x minus 128. The question is, what is a, what is b? So your a is 64, your b is minus 128. They're asking a minus b. So it is 64 minus 128. So it's 64 plus 128. So that's 192. The option is D. Next one. Oil and gas production in certain area dropped from 4 million in 2000. So 4 million in the year 2000 to 1.9 million in 2013. And it was a constant rate. Okay. So which of the function is the correct representation? T years after 2000 means if I were to plug in T as 0, that means I should get the value of the year 2000. Okay. So T as 0 should give me 4. All of them are giving me 4, right? This is also 4. That's also 4. So not very helpful. So let's get rid of that. T equal to 0 doesn't work. But then if I, let's say, plug in T as 13, because that's like in 2000 to 2013, 13 years. That should give me the value 1.9 times 10 to the power 6, right? So let's plug that in, t as 13. So here, the first one would be 21 over 130 times 13. So that's 2.1 plus 4. So that's going to be 6.1. So that's not it. In fact, you can also realize a simple thing that it's a decreasing function, right? So that means the slope is going to be negative. So search for negative slopes. This is also positive slope, right? This is not the correct representation. Negative slopes are these two. Let's plug in here. Okay. So here plug in t as 13. So it's minus 2.1 plus 4. So that's 1.9. And here it is minus 1.9 plus 4. So that's 2.1. We need 1.9, not 2.1. So the answer is option C. Okay. Next. A triangle inequality theorem states that, so we know that each side, any side is less than the sum of the two sides. Okay, so the third side, let's put it like that. The third side is less than sum of the other two sides. Okay, so now it says that two of the sides are 6 and 12. So the third side, first of all, clearly must be. So if I, let's say, take some values. Okay, so let's draw a triangle. Okay, we have got a 12, we have got a 6, we have got a x. So if I take x to be the third side, we have x less than 6 plus 12. So that gives you x less than 18. You already have that. Just don't mark it because we have x less than 18 here as well. Now, if I take 12 to be the other side, so 12 is less than x plus 6. So that's x is greater than 6 as well. Because this property should be valid for all pairs of sides, right? And if you take the 6, then 6 is less than x plus 12, which is pretty obvious. I mean, like 12 is greater than 6 anyway. So if you add a positive quantity, it will remain. So we can just drop this. From here, we get what? In fact, you can remember this. So one side, any side, is less than sum of the other two and greater than difference between the other two. So you can just write that the third side x is less than 18 and greater than 6 straight away. Okay. So you can remember this relation. All right. Let's move on to the next one. So here we have that Fahrenheit and Kelvin again. So it's basically almost the same equation. We have the Fahrenheit is, as we discussed last time as well, this is 9 over 5 times x plus some constant, which we are not really interested in. 9 over 5 is my slope, and the slope is change in Fahrenheit. So F2 minus F1 over change in Kelvin, x2 minus x1. It is given that this is 2.1. So 9 over 5 is F2 minus F1 over 2.1. So the change in Fahrenheit, F2 minus F1 becomes 9 times 2.1. So that's approx 18. 18 over 5 is approx 3.6. What's the option closest to that? So let's just mark that. Change in Fahrenheit is the question. So that's 3.6. Let's move on. So each side of a 30-sided polygon. Okay, so polygons are like shapes bounded by straight lines. Triangle is a polygon with 3 sides, quadrilaterals with 4 sides, and so on. So now each side of a 30-sided polygon has one of 3 lengths. So you have got length 8, length 4, and length n. These are the 3 lengths. So some of them are of length 8, some of them are length 4, some of them are of length n. Now it says the number of sides. The number of sides with length 8 centimeters is 5 times of the number of sides n with length 3. Sorry, n is not the length, n is 3. And this is n. Number of sides is n. So number of sides of length 8, this one, is 5 times the number of sides n of length 3. So that means this is 5n. And they're saying that there are 6 sides with length 4. So the number of sides are these. We know that there are 30 sides in all. So 5n plus 6 plus n is 30. So basically it is 6n plus 6 is 30. So that is option B. Okay. Next. The formula above is Ohm's law for electric current with current I. You don't need to understand Ohm's law, but just go along with the definition, whatever they said. V is the potential difference, resistance is R, and a circuit has resistance. So R is given as 500. Potential difference, that's V, will be generated by N 6-volt batteries. Okay. That produce a total potential difference of 6N volts. So V is 6N. Okay. You don't need to understand that detail about like 6-volt batteries, what are those and stuff like that. You know that total potential difference is 6N. Okay. If the circuit has to have a current of no more than 0.25, that means you are saying I is less than or equal to 0.25. All right. You have to learn how to ignore the rest of the information. You just need this, and we have this equation. So they're saying what is the value of greatest number n? Okay, why the greatest value of n? Let's just plug in. So we have V 6n. So R is this. So that's your 500. Sorry, R is 500. That's your current, and this is less than or equal to 0.25, right? Because this is my current, right? According to this, V over R, 6n over 500 is my current. And this current is less than or equal to 0.25. So this current, so current in this case is 6n over 500. And this current here is less than 0.25, less than or equal to. So let's just solve that. So we have 6n less than equal to 500 times 0.125 is 125. So n is less than or equal to 20.83. Okay. 120 over 6 is 20, 5 over 6 is 0.83. So n is less than or equal to 20.83. So the greatest number of n would be 20. That's your answer. Because you can't have a zero point 0.8 number of value, right? Number of batteries it is. Let's move on to the next question. So this graph of 9x minus 10y is 90 is translated down by 4 units. We have done a similar question once. So they're saying the x-intercept. So let's convert this to a standard form first. So negative 10y would be minus 9x plus 19. So y is negative negative cancels 9/10 x minus 1.9. Okay, simple. You divide it by 10, negative 10. Now it's translated down by 4 units means the constant will be reducing by, you'll subtract 4 basically. The new function now will be y equals 9 over 10 x minus 1.9 minus 4. So it becomes 0.9x minus 5.9. They are saying the x-intercept. So that means y should be 0. So then 0.9x minus 5.9 is 0. So 0.9x is 5.9. So x is 5.9 by 0.9. So that's 59 by 9. So the x coordinate of the x-intercept of the value will be 59 over 9. You can convert this to decimals and write, or keep it as a fraction and write. Let's go to the next one. So we have an equation. In this equation, p is a constant. It has no solution. No solution means the left hand and the right hand sides must not match, right? So the only way it can not match is if the x completely cancels out and you have a constant, you end up with something like 0 equal to 84, which is false, right? That would be the case where it is no solution. Because if an x stays back, then you can solve for x. So the x has to vanish, kind of. So that means minus 3x and plus 21p x should be 0. In other words, what I'm trying to say is drop the x. Minus 3 plus 21p should be 0. They should cancel each other out. Or in other words, 21p equals 3. So p equals 1 over 7. So that's the second option. Next one. The system has no solution again. So the no solution scenario is this one we'll rewrite. So that's if I multiply by 2 and rearrange the term. So 2y minus x equals 16. Let's just multiply the whole thing with 2. Okay. You can try it out by first multiplying by 2 and then taking the x. And the other one is y minus cx equal to 10. No solution means 2 over 1 is minus 1 over minus c. So then c becomes half. So 1 over 2. Next. So we have x plus 6 over 3 equals x plus 6 over 13. And they are saying, what is the value of x plus 6? Find it. So the value of x is not important. They're asking what is the value of x plus 6. So you can just take x plus 6 to be some k, and that's a simple logic. K by 3, so I'm just substituting, say x plus 6 is k, so that is easy for you to follow. K by 3 equals k over 13. Cross multiply. 13k equals 3k. Bring the k this side. 13k minus 3k is 0. 10k is 0. Obviously, then k must have been 0. But k is your x plus 6, so that means you are saying that x plus 6 is 0. Right? If x plus 6 was 0, you are getting what? See, 0 over 3, which is 0, equals 0 over 13, which is also 0, which makes sense, right? So that means the value of x plus 6 should be 0. Where does it lie? So clearly lies between 2 and negative 2. Okay. Next. So these are 3 points on the line. K and error constants. The slope is 2. What's the value of k plus n? So since the slope is 2, we'll just use this and calculate the slope. 11 minus 7 over k minus 3 is 2. And then these two as well. 11 minus n over k minus 12 is 2. So from here we have 11 minus 7 is 4 by k minus 3 is 2. That would give us k minus 3 itself is 2. So that's k equal 5. We'll plug it in here. So that's 11 minus n over 5 minus 12 is 2. So 11 minus n is, this is negative 7 times 2, negative 14. So n comes out to be 25. So they are saying k plus n. So 25, k is 5 and n is 25. So that is 30. All right, this is fine. Next. Shipping service restricts the dimensions of boxes. The restriction states that for boxes shaped like rectangular prisms, these are rectangular prisms, okay? Cuboids or cubes, kind of cubes, okay? So like the sum of the perimeter of the base of the box, perimeter of the base. So if it is length, width, and height, then the sum of the perimeter of the base. So perimeter of the base is 2 times length plus width and the height. So perimeter plus height should be less than or equal to 130. Number one. The perimeter is determined using the width and length. The box has a height of 60. So that means 2 times length plus width plus 60 is less than or equal to 130. So 2 times length plus width is less than or equal to 70. Okay. Now what is it saying? The length is 2.5 times the width. Okay, so let's plug in. Length plus width is therefore less than or equal to 35. Plug in L is 2.5 W. So 2.5 W plus W less than equal to 35. 3.5 W is less than equal to 35. So W less than or equal to 10. The width they have taken is X. So basically what we have as W is basically our X. So X is less than or equal to 10. So X is less than or equal to 10. Obviously the width has to be something positive. It can't be a negative number, right? So the width is less than or equal to 10. Let's go to the next one. So here I've got two equations. And they're saying for each real number R, which of the following points lies on the graph of each equation in the XY plane for the given system? So that means they're saying that the general forms of the coordinates, okay? The general form should be in this. So if I take an X to be R and Y to be this is going to satisfy both. Or this going to satisfy both. Or this is going to satisfy both. And so on. Okay? But now, if you look at these two equations, they are the same because if you were to just multiply with 3, see, you get 24x plus 21y equals 27. So effectively, you have been just given one equation. Okay, so let us just work with 8x plus 7y equal to 9. Okay, that's the reduced form. So you actually don't have to plug in these points in both. You just plug in one of them and see which one satisfies. Okay, that will be your answer. So it's best to plug in values. So if I, let's say, plug in here R, so X is R, right? And then 7 times of this. So 7 times negative 8R over 7 plus 9 over 7. So what do we get? So that's 8R, 7 times of this. The 7s will cancel from the denominators. So plus, this is minus 8R plus 9. Don't we get 9? Yes. So that means this actually ends up satisfying the equation that we have. So once we know that this is definitely going to satisfy, and we have to just verify with one equation. That's our answer. You don't need to check anymore. Okay, so we have the answer as option A.